I always like to tell the story. I've told it many times. When I was in the Navy, I was 19 years old, and I was at Alameda, California, and I was assigned to the USS Ranger, which is an aircraft carrier. At that time, it was the largest ship in the world. It's now decommissioned, but it was CVA-61. And I was in Alameda, and I boarded a small refrigerator ship in Alameda, which was to take me to Japan, where my ship was. And we took 29 days to cross. We got to Sasebo, and then from Sasebo I took a train up to Yokosuka. And as I was getting on that boat for that 29-day voyage across the ocean, my Uncle Bill, who was a school teacher in Hayward, California, handed me a collection of writing by Leo Tolstoy. And the collection of writings was called The Death of Ivan Ilyich, and that was the lead story. It's about 170 pages or so. It's a pretty good. It's like a small novella, and he said, before you get to Sasebo, before you get to Japan, he said, see if you can read The Death of Ivan Ilyich. Just read it. He said it'll be really important for you. And he taught history and he taught English and things like that, so he used this in his teaching. So I was out 8 or 9 days, and I was just a young kid, teenager, and finally I picked it up and I started to read it. And it's the story of a judge in Moscow. Now, Leo Tolstoy was like one of the real great spiritual teachers. A lot of people don't realize. They think he was just a great writer, but he was way, way more than that. Many say he was a divine spiritual avatar, a master. He was the most famous man alive on the planet in 1904 and 1905, before television, before radio, and just considered a seer, a great avatar, a great teacher, a visionary. And he had this man who was a judge named Ivan Ilyich, and he would go back and forth to work every day. And he was doing everything that he was programmed to do the morning of his life. You know, he was programmed on ambition, on achieving things, on accumulating things. And he hated everything about what he was doing throughout the story. He not only hated what he was doing, but he hated his wife, because she's the one that got him into this in the first place. And he felt she was responsible for him not fulfilling a different destiny altogether. And you know that the ending of the story by the title of the story, The Death of Ivan Ilyich. You know this guy, he's going to die in the end. So the last paragraph of the short story, he's lying there holding his wife's hand, and he looks up into her eyes, and the last message of that story is, he says to her, "What if my whole life has been wrong?" And then he died, closed his eyes. And I was 19 years old, and I took out a little notebook and I wrote a note to myself. It said, "Dear Wayne, don't die with your music still in you. Don't die with your music still in you." And I carried that with me, and in fact, it became a part of another book that I wrote many years later called 10 Secrets for Success and Inner Peace, that I wrote for my children, my teenage children, so they would have an idea of the most important ideas. And this idea of not dying with your music still in you, and realizing that you can be, he was successful by every standard. He was a judge, he was well respected, yes, yes sir, no sir, yeah, your honor, all of that kind of thing. And yet, his question as he died was, what if my whole life has been wrong? And that question gives me chills even today, even as I say that, because I would never look into anybody's eyes, and my last words would never be that, because my life hasn't been wrong, because I managed to make the shift. With that moment, that one moment that I just described, well, I've had that same kind of moment, that vivid, surprising, benevolent, and enduring kinds of thing. I had the very same thing when I left a position as a safe place, as a tenured professor with a guaranteed job and a certain amount of income and benefits and everything that goes with working for somebody else. And I had a similar experience, and I just was able to just walk away from it and take the risk to do so. And I want to share something here. It's a statement from one of the great teachers in my life, Carl Jung. And I was trained in sort of Jungian therapy and Jungian analysis and so on. And he wrote something called Stages of Life. It says, thoroughly unprepared, we take the step into the afternoon of life. Worse still, we take this step with the false presupposition that our truths and ideas will serve us as hitherto. But we cannot live the afternoon of our life according to the program of life's morning. For what was great in the morning will be little at evening, and what in the morning was true will at evening have become a lie. Now, these words really resonated with me from Carl Jung's The Stages of Life. And if I could reword that, basically what he is saying is that as we move into the meaning phase of our life, the afternoon of our life, we are taking the ideas and the constructs and the rules and the guidelines and the provisions that we learned in the morning of our life, which is focused exclusively on ambition and getting ahead and getting more and being better than everybody else. We take those same kind of constructs into the afternoon of our life when meaning is far superior to ambition. But as he says in here, we end up living a lie. And the lie is because what was true for us in the morning, which is I have to get ahead, I have to win, I have to be the most successful and so on, in the afternoon have become a lie. But we don't know how to move into the meaning phase of our life. And the meaning phase of our life is the time when we shift back to the time in our life when we were in our mother's womb in those first 9 months. That's the meaning phase where we have surrendered, where we have, as Lao Tzu said, you're doing nothing, you're just being done, you know? And we can find our meaning by trusting in our nature, by recognizing that I am here to do more than just accumulate and be better than somebody else. In fact, it has absolutely nothing to do with it. One of my great teachers early in my life was Abraham Maslow, and I remember him saying very specifically that if you want to become self-actualized, if you want to live a life of meaning, the first thing you have to do is become independent of the good opinion of other people. The first thing you have to do. And the second thing is to become detached from the outcome. Those were the top two criteria for highly functioning people. Independent of the good opinion of other people, which is exactly the opposite of what we learned in the ambition phase of our life, and detachment from outcome, which is the other opposite. You know, instead of, it's like, we don't go out there to try to make, you know, to do something to make a lot of money. That's, you know, detachment from outcome is like you don't do it because of how much money you're going to make. You do it because there's something inside of you here that is telling you this is what you're here for. This is what you have to create. This is what your purpose is. You're going to make the world a better place. You're going to fulfill a destiny, a dharma that you signed up for, you know, before you even entered your mother's womb. I mean, that's the kind of thing that you begin to feel inside of yourself, so that you're moving into that stage. But you want to move into what Jung calls the afternoon of your life. You want to move into that armed with a whole collection of practices and beliefs and guidelines that work for you rather than work against you. So that you're not trying to feel fulfilled and meaningful and purposeful in your life by setting goals, by trying to get ahead of the other guy, by trying to win, by worrying about how much money you're going to make, by worrying about whether it's going to be liked, by whether other people like it. And that just goes back to, you know, the ego says it's all about your reputation. So learn to get a good reputation, learn to get people to like you. It's why people have such a problem with politics and political people, because they're consistently out there just trying to, whatever group they're talking to get them to agree with them, and then they say something different, and there's no meaning and power in them.